Hello, and welcome to Prospero Teaching's online course, An Introduction to Tutoring. This course is suitable for people who are interested in getting into tutoring or for education practitioners looking to transition into tutoring from another role. We will start with some quick key pointers for first-time tutors. These principles will run through all of the main points covered in this training. Be prepared. Have your resources ready and in order before each session. This ensures you get started quickly when the session begins. Having backup activities and extra resources in case you find a spare 5 minutes, or if the student grasps your planned learning very quickly, is always a good idea. Be positive and encouraging. If your pupil shows a lack of understanding or confidence, provide them with encouragement before figuring out what you could try next. Encourage them to put pen to paper also. This may sound obvious, but some pupils lack confidence in this area and require lots of positive reinforcement. Encourage students to be vocal about their learning. Encouraging them to be vocal about what they find challenging and to talk about their thought processes when tackling an activity helps conversations to be constructive, keeps the focus on the learning objective. Use each session to inform your next. Did your students struggle with something or indicate that there is something in particular they'd like to work on in the following session? Did they speak about an interest which you could bring into the activity for the next session for extra motivation? Make sure you incorporate all of these things into your plans for the following sessions. Give feedback to your pupils throughout the session. Pupil feedback is a vital tool when conducting one-to-one or small group learning. Be precise with praise for where good effort is made and outline areas where improvements could be made next time. Ask for advice or feedback on your sessions from the team at Prospero if you are unsure or feel you are not pitching at the right level for your student. It is also a good idea to check in with your students and their parents or carers to gauge what is working well and what could be improved. It is important that we take into consideration the issues that students may be facing today. There is an increased demand at the moment for tutors following recent events. Gaps in learning may have been widened by recent periods of school disruption and closure. This means that it is crucial that you as a tutor are prepared to identify and bridge these gaps in learning. Tutoring students offers a unique opportunity to create positive relationships and to get your pupils back on track with their learning. To be successful, you must show understanding and empathy for your students' individual situations. In general, many students across the country are likely to have been facing at least some of the below issues: loss of focus or routine, feeling emotionally unsettled, having a lack of trust in education, or having worries or anxiety about exams, end-of-year assessment, or their future in general. We must be aware of these issues to ensure that we can have constructive and positive conversations with our students where necessary. Now, what are the responsibilities of a tutor? It is a tutor's responsibility to plan and deliver individualized learning opportunities for students. You will need to focus on student progress, so knowing where your students are in terms of their levels and abilities, and knowing where you need to get them to, and working from the gaining of new knowledge to the application of this knowledge across sessions. You will need to use assessment to track how students are progressing in and across lessons, to adapt your teaching to suit their requirements, and to enable pupils to improve their work. You will also need to develop and maintain a culture of learning in your sessions, fostering what is known as a growth mindset in students, reducing any fear of failure with encouragement to learn from mistakes. We will now look at some key strategies to consider when communicating with your student. When offering encouragement and praise, make sure it is precise and encourages a growth mindset. Refer to the learning objective that is being tackled by their efforts regularly. This precise approach is much more effective and meaningful to your students than general comments. For example, saying, "That's good, well done," is nice to hear, but it is very general. Whereas saying, "Excellent sentence at the bottom of the page there, you're showing real progress this morning, you're on track to meet the learning objective, well done." Similarly, when something goes wrong, compare saying, "Oh no, whoops," which, although sympathetic, isn't as helpful to progress as, "Ah, what a helpful mistake, we can all learn from that," Let's follow the steps in the method together to see where we went wrong. Using effective questioning. Questioning is important in all education settings. It is especially necessary to use effective questioning in one-to-one settings, as this is how we establish a dialogue and gauge our students' understanding. Other benefits to using effective questioning include it saves use of our voice by prompting the student to be vocal, it can improve student focus, it helps students take ownership of their learning, it breaks up longer tutor explanations, it can be used to differentiate tasks by challenging students in a group individually, and it can have a positive effect on behaviour. Instruction check questioning. If we simply ask a student, "Do you understand?" students may say they have understood when they have not, or may just answer yes without giving you any evidence that the learning objective has been met. The following instruction check questions can be used to check a student's understanding of a task instructions and to open up a dialogue about their learning processes. For example, when looking at a task with a student for the first time. John, what do you think we have to do first? Naomi, what do you notice about the diagram on the sheet? Hamza, how might this activity help us meet the learning objective? If students say "I don't know" or are unresponsive in sessions, you can use the following questions. That's okay, what resource could you use to help you? No problem, if you were to have a guess, where do you think we could start? You can also use statements such as "I'm here if you'd like to ask for help" to show that you are there to support and will listen to your students. Next, let's look at some key behaviour management strategies to consider when planning your tutoring sessions. Have high expectations. It's important that you begin each session confidently with the expectation that it will go well with good behaviour. Students respond to body language and will pick up on the level of confidence and conviction in your voice. So make sure you show that you expect good behaviour at all times. Give clear instructions. When planning activities, consider how you will deliver instructions that are clear and concise. Plan engaging activities. Make sure your activities are challenging but as engaging as possible for your students. The way an activity is delivered can increase engagement levels too, for example with time limits, extra challenges, or by providing a series of problems to solve that build towards a rewarding conclusion. Give praise. Be precise and genuine when students make the right choices and demonstrate good effort in your sessions. Check understanding with a focus on progress. The vast majority of poor behaviour from students stems from them not understanding what they need to do, or when they have a lack of confidence in their abilities. Check in regularly on progress and outline when and where learning objectives are being met. Following the policy. Check the behaviour policy attached to your education setting and make sure you follow it. Speak with your consultant at Prospero if you are unsure about this. Keep your emotions in check. It's important that on the outside we lead by example and maintain a calm voice and manner, even if we are feeling frustrated on the inside. If we are consistent with our expectations and instructions, raised voices should not be necessary. Make sure that your facial expressions and body language is neutral when addressing behaviour in sessions also. Be consistent. Make sure that you stick with any expectations or rules set for the lesson in all of your tutor sessions. Follow up where necessary. If due to poor behaviour, a situation needs to be escalated or followed up on with other staff in your education setting, ensure that this happens. Speak with your consultant at Prospero if you are unsure of the procedure or on who would be best to communicate with. And finally, maintain good relationships with parents and carers. Be friendly, approachable and clear with parents and carers of your students and update them regularly on the progress made. Students will be much more likely to behave positively if it is clear that there is a collaborative approach between their tutor and their parent or carer. Planning your first session with a new student. The main purpose of your first session is to gather as much information as possible which can support you in planning your future sessions. Make it clear what your expectations are for pace of working and behaviour, but also use this time to start building a positive relationship with your student. A first session may consist of icebreaker activities to encourage communication, some light assessment to give you an idea of the level to pitch at, For example, if English writing was your focus subject, then this could come in the form of a discussion around doing a shared write. You may then choose to include a series of activities which make structure and behaviour expectations clear and that are clearly linked to a learning objective. But remember, keep your first learning objectives simple and achievable in these sessions to enable you to give lots of precise praise when progress is made. During this first session, ensure you have a chance to speak briefly with the student about what they like, how they feel they learn best. Finally, make it clear what you plan to cover over the following few sessions and give your students a clear picture of the structure and behaviour expectations that you have. If there is an end goal in sight, for example achieving a certain grade at GCSE level, let them know that you are there to support them to meet this challenge. Next, we will look in more detail at a general tutoring session structure. This will differ from your first sessions with the student as the expectations will have already been set, and so the focus will be on learning and progress, ideally across a sequence of lessons. Your session is typically likely to consist of a warm-up activity, a learning objective, your main activities, assessment for learning sprinkled throughout, a plenary, and perhaps some home learning set for your student. Starters or warm-up activities. It is always important to have a quick 5-minute warm-up or starter activity to engage students at the start of a session. These offer a chance to recap on content from a previous session or to prepare for the main learning ahead. These should be simple activities that require little explanation, allowing you to check in with the student while setting expectations for the lesson. These may include definition matches, true or false quizzes, key vocabulary sorts, an anagram to solve, a spot the mistake problem, or if this is the answer, what is the question? Learning objectives. Learning objectives should always be used to guide students as they work through your session. They should also be used to assess the progress in learning. The most powerful learning objectives are specific, clearly actionable, and measurable. Here are some examples of some learning intentions that are not specific, clearly actionable, or measurable. We're going to carry on with some maths today. Time for some writing. Let's focus on rivers for geography this week. Contrast these with examples of learning objectives which are specific, clearly actionable, and measurable. To be able to solve word problems involving 3-digit numbers, to write a persuasive argument, to identify and label the key features of a river. Main activities. Your main activities will form the majority of your sessions. They are likely to be planned week to week, perhaps being tweaked and adapted as you learn more about what works well for your student. Ensure that each activity is linked to the learning objective, has clear instructions to deliver it, and gets the students doing as quickly as possible without too much lengthy explanation. We also want each activity to offer the simplest route possible to progress. Assessment for Learning, or AFL. How do we know the students are understanding during the session? Assessment for learning techniques are vital to gauging student understanding live during our tutoring sessions. We should use the responses to this live assessment to inform the level of support or challenge we then provide our student with. Below are some great examples of AFL techniques which you could include in your assessment toolkit. Traffic lights, where students hold up colours to indicate their level of confidence or understanding. Thumbs up, thumbs down, in response to a learning objective-based prompt. Asking students to give a rating of their confidence or understanding out of 5. Finding the fib or mistake in a pre-prepared answer. Using mini whiteboards to give quick answers to problems. Using success criteria or steps to success to work through which lead to meeting the learning objective. Self or peer assessment. Using personalised learning checklists, which are particularly useful when students have some longer-term objectives which they need to regularly practice. For example, I can use full stops and capital letters in all of my sentences. Thank you for watching the video section of our course, An Introduction to Tutoring. Please now follow the instructions on the screen. You must answer the multiple choice questions to complete this course.